Hello, welcome to the Crownsman Show. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today, we're going to be talking about expanding operations, dealing with the supply chain. There'll be a little inflation talk, but all mixed in with growing business, Daequip. We've got Ed Lingel on the show. He's the president of Daequip. He's going to be walking us through what his company's been up to and the successes they've had, some of the challenges. Lots going on. First, you, the audience, have been very supportive of this show, so we decided to have a little bit more fun and do giveaways for subscribers. So we're going to be giving away a Makita drill set. First is our first prize for doing this. It's the first 1,000 subscribers. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you automatically get entered into that. The next thing I want to mention is that Crownsman is now doing a heavy industry, we're calling it a heavy industry world tour. So we're going to be going, we've done lots of shows here in Canada, CIM, PDAC, GES in Alberta, but we're going to be hitting, let me see here. We're going to Germany, Australia, South Africa. I think we were South Africa twice, actually. And we're looking for an event in Chile. So the reason I mentioned that is if you are going to any big events and you want to be featured, you can reach out to us at info@crownsman.com. Or get a list of where we're going. We'll bring that up on the screen as well and let us know if you'll be at the same events. Okay, Ed, welcome to the show. Good to have you back on. It's been a couple years since you've been on. I think I know your company's grown. Lots has gone on with us, and a lot has gone on with the world. So let's just start with sort of what's been going on the last couple of years and go from there.
Thanks, Jared. It's good to be here in person. Yeah, lots is going on. Lots has changed. Challenges the last 2 years, 2.5 years have presented many challenges that most of us never thought we'd have to do. When things first started, we had a big interruption in business and kind of scared us. We were thinking back to the 08, 09 crash. We made some emergency moves, and we downsized to kind of prepare for the long haul. And we've seen a significant drop in business for the first 6 or 7 months, and it was worrisome to say the least. You don't know what's going on. You don't see where the future is. Everybody's kind of wondering what is going to happen with our industry. But it was sometime around August, September of 2020 where we seen a big change, and really the big change that everybody noticed is that things were returning to normal, and business was carrying on. Infrastructure needed to be done. We had to continue to grow and continue to do what needed to be done in the industry. With that, challenges started to happen. First of all, dealerships that had inventory, they had started to let inventory deplete. They kind of went into a purchase only if it's sold. They were still being very cautious.
That 08-09 approach, right?
The 08-09 approach. Everybody was kind of backing off their experience from there. And really, we didn't have anything else to go by. So you're being very cautious. Cash is king, in these type of situations. So everybody was very, fiscally responsible, managing their money as best they could. So deals would come forth. It was kind of a mandate across the board for most dealers that we deal with. They're not going to order any new equipment or new products unless it was a sold deal. They didn't want to carry a bunch of inventory. So that kind of happened for about a year. But, the upside was things kind of returned back to normal, and, we staffed up again. And then the challenges started. The first challenges were availability. As things happened across the world, different industries shut down in different places at different times, which started to create supply chain issues. So we started to, hear and see a little bit. It wasn't too bad. Some types of steel be sold out, and you might be 60 to 90 days to get them. And we started to see that, compound with everything.
What would be typical?
3 to 5 days.
Okay.
Most of the time when we're looking for products or material, our suppliers will have it on hand, or we try to have it on hand. So we started to see, the odd supply chain issues. You started hearing more of it in the automotive industry and some of the big type industries where they're going through multitudes of thousands. And really what that exposed is, we are a global supply chain commerce country now. We don't just get it from our neighbors down the street or the next province. We got products coming from all four corners of the
Mm-hmm.
world, and so as different things started happening in different countries and slowdowns were affecting different places, all of a sudden you might have a product coming from one area where they're shut down, where we're not shut down, then another product from another area that was going, but they're shut down. So the shutdowns in different times really started to impact the overall availability of everything. Fast forwarding into 2020, 2021, dealerships had really depleted all of their inventory, and now they were finding business is back to normal. As far as our industry, we're very fortunate to have, or be a part of an industry where we're involved in mining and forestry and infrastructure and construction, and daily life had to go on for
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of us. So we started to get busy, and dealers were going, hey, we've run out of this. We need stuff. So all of a sudden, I kind of I relate it back to the old toilet paper scenario.
Mm-hmm.
People all of a sudden realized that they were out of stuff,
Right.
so now they want to make sure they ordered extra so they didn't run out. Well, that was going across the board, so everybody started to order extra. So as we started to get further and further delivery schedules and delivery timelines, still kind of running off the old concept of a free flow supply chain, and it was across the board with all manufacturers, not just attachment manufacturers, but equipment manufacturers and
Mm-hmm.
suppliers as such, that you couldn't rely on outside supply anymore. So now you had to kind of figure out, where are my delivery times? So, and then you had other things happening with employees missing time work, and just different types of instances that would, slow production and or shut it down.
Alrighty, so now let's take a moment to thank our sponsors. First up, we have OptiSize. OptiSize is a leading edge geophysical acquisition design and software company. OptiSize provides innovative seismic survey designs utilizing the latest field technology and optimizing for advanced processing and quantitative interpretation techniques. OptiSize's mission is to bring sustainable exploration solutions to energy development with their custom land footprint reduction technology, EcoSize. EcoSize enables operators to focus on reducing their environmental and greenhouse gas footprint while imaging all their subsurface targets and reducing costs. You can visit them at optisize.com to learn more. Next up, we also have Edge Eyewear. Edge designs stylish, quality, and affordable safety eyewear that's as fit for the weekend as the workday. Edge's safety glasses and sunglasses are ANSI or CSA compliant, come ready with modern technology, and are comfortable enough to offer all-day protection. And they've been delivering a better safety glass since 1998. You can visit edgeeyewear.com to learn more and save 20% with code CROWN20. We also have L&H. L&H Industrial can custom engineer and build from the ground up any heavy equipment assembly or machine that you need for your operation. Their worldwide 24/7 field services network is on the job whenever you need heavy equipment troubleshootings, repairs, rebuilds, relocations, or replacements. And thanks to their specialized design and engineering and state-of-the-art manufacturing and repair services, they are the go-to international supplier for improved components and custom assemblies for heavy industrial machinery. You can visit them at lnh.net to learn more. Next up, we have Zero Knox. Zero Knox is the global leader in electric powertrain solutions, microgrids, and clean technology. They provide a platform for clean energy technology to come to market through powertrain solutions, development partnerships, and electrification kit solutions for conversions, all powered by Zero Knox. Their mission is to empower communities through sustainable innovation as they partner with some of the world's leading OEMs to solve challenges across multiple continents with cleaner and higher performing technology. Empowering a clean, innovative, and higher performing future without compromise. Visit them at zeronox.com. And last but not least, we have Power Zone Equipment. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with Power Zone. Visit them at powerzone.com. And now, back to the interview.
Had you seen it before? Like, had you, like, in 08, 09? I mean, I was in the exterior business in that time. So it went from, yeah, I mean, there was, things like bolts were just stocked and then you had to order them. But there wasn't ever an issue of getting it. It was, I mean, they wanted they had capacity to get you more supplies. They just needed you to order it. And this was such a unique, this was completely the opposite, where they didn't have it to give to you. You couldn't buy it.
I think the two biggest differences is in 08, 09. It came on as a global financial crisis, and it came on hard and fast.
Yeah.
Everybody had excess inventory because we were in that old days where, 06, 07 and early 08, everybody was busy. So people were trying to buy as much as they could and inventory, to have it ready for sale. As the crash hit in 08, 09, and people got stuck with inventory, not just for 1 year, but some companies had inventory for 2, 3, 4 years that they couldn't get rid of. So, you're moving forward over the last 10 years. You don't want to get caught with that again. So you go into more of a JIT, a just in time type scenario, or you carry a little bit of inventory, but you're always kind of on the safe side. So when we go into 2019, 2020, people are on, they're not running on massive inventories. They're running on a replenishable inventory. And when that replenishable inventory isn't able to be replenished, or you're having more supply chain issues, you end up with, worst case scenario, the perfect storm. And, that's what we've seen.
I was in the days leading up to doing this interview, I was thinking sometimes when you're doing an interview, something will stand out. I watch a lot of comedy, so I like a good joke will sort of rattle around your head, and like 3 years later, it'll pop back into your head and you'll think about it. Especially if it's kind of got an extra meaning to it. And you said something in our last interview that comes in, because I started business. I started running my own company or being partners with people running companies. So young, way too young, probably.
Good for you.
But I crashed and burned badly, very badly. And I remember you saying that one of your comments in the last interview that we did is that you wish you had started sooner. It was if the only thing you would change is you would have done it a bit sooner. Was this the first, as a business owner, having your company? I know you'd had it for quite a few years before all this happened, but was this the first sort of big hit, or had you experienced similar types of challenges already?
No, this was the first big storm. We had a couple of different events that happened early on when we bought the business that worried me, but nothing took place. We actually continued to grow. So this was the first event that triggered a holy heck scenario for us. And I went back to my experience of 08, 09. I worked for, a large corporation at that time. And, it took a while, and not just for that company, but for all the companies. Nobody realized what was happening in 08, 09. Nobody could have foreseen that, the entire global economy was going to crash. So everybody was kind of slow to react. As things started to slow down, nobody really, prepared for it. And then by the time the slowdown, collapsed, everybody's kind of going like, how did that happen? So I was fortunate enough to have gone through that experience. And so when we seen this happen in March of 2020, we were at ConExpo when it started. I came home and I was looking at what was happening, and I thought, I need to preserve, the cash. We got to preserve the company. We'll keep an eye on it for a couple of weeks and see what's going on. And our phone stopped ringing, and so we took drastic measures, and we reduced staffing. We only had materials to build what we had on order. I didn't cancel any orders, but I postponed some inventory orders we had on some different supplies. Talked to my suppliers, going, "Hey, we're still going to commit to taking it, but we're just gonna we don't need it right now. Let's look at a delayed delivery." And my suppliers were good enough to work with us for that, as we did with some of our suppliers. That was really what I had learned from the previous one. But back to your question, no, this was the first hit, and hopefully the last one. I don't want to see that again.
No. But I was curious too, is what, because really when people see a company coming through a tough time, well, of course they see that, but a lot of it is what you did beforehand that makes it, can your company even withstand one of these? What do you think sort of leading towards this that you've done well? Because I want to talk about you expanding, because I know you are. So But before we do that, what did you think up to that point, up to that 2020, I guess, that you've done well that sort of prepared you to be able to withstand it?
I guess I can go back to my grandfather and my father. They taught me a valuable life lesson, and it's basically, carry as little debt as you can, only buy things that you can afford to buy,
Mm,
and don't get overextended. And one of the things that I've not one of the things, but one of the focuses I've had since I bought Daequip is during expansion. I don't go out and spend a ton of money on brand new equipment if I don't need it. If I can
mm,
find something really good that will get us through, because we were going in small steps.
mhm,
We don't have a lot of space, so and I don't own the space that I'm in, so I didn't want to spend a ton of money on, massive infrastructure within the building that eventually I'm just going to have to tear out anyways.
mhm,
So when I bought new equipment, I bought a new machine shop, in 2018. You know, I made sure that I paid cash for it, so I don't have a big debt. And I
mm,
paid down my company debt as much as I could. Basically, the thing that really not saved us but helped us is we went into 2020, with little to no debt.
mm.
Um, we've got a good customer base, we've got a good product line. And so having a bit of money in the bank, having a good banker is part of it. My banker was good enough to reach out to us right at the beginning and say, hey, we're here with you. If you need anything, let us know. And that was a good feeling because I've talked to people in 08, 09, and even back
Mhm.
40 years earlier. There's a lot of guys I do business with or have mentored from that were in the 80, 81, 82 times, and valuable lessons learned from that. So I'd say that's probably the single most important lesson that I've learned as a businessman and moving forward. There's good debt and bad debt. So, just make sure that you've got good debt and you manage it.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do, especially when you're, especially when things are going well. This can be really tempting to you can go, oh, look at the money we could bring in, what we could do with it, and not necessarily with it backed up though by are the orders there or all that sort of thing. I was curious when you said about the equipment that you're using though. Is a lot of your stuff, how much of it is custom? Do you have some product lines that these are, I mean, we're making 20 of these every month, or is it pretty unique to each?
So both. The answer to your question is, both. We do a lot of custom work and we do a lot of standard work. So, some months we'll have 30, 40, 50 of one product go through. Other months, you know, it'll be an entire custom month. And by custom, a lot of our products are, standard products in the industry. I think we talked a little bit about rollout buckets and rock buckets for wheel loaders. Like we've expanded our wheel loader line significantly in the last 7 years. Um, it's a custom product because everybody has different use and a different requirement. So you can't just stock a 5-yard rollout bucket and have it fit every machine.
Mm,
The back end, the hookup is different. So if it's going to go on a John Deere, Doosan, or a Cat, they all fit differently.
mhm,
So that part, you kind of customize as is ordered. Where on the excavator world, especially in Western Canada, everybody's pretty much settled on one style of hookup. And so we're able to build an inventory as much as we can. Now,
mm.
having said that, we haven't been able to keep inventory for, 3 years. And, it's a long-term goal of ours to have a yard full of inventory, but then that's a catch 22, because if you have a yard full of
Yeah.
inventory, you're, you're not building fast. So, but yeah, the products we build are vast. We do have a full product line. Um, but our product line will pretty much consist of whatever you need to go on the end of a machine.
But like an excavator, like a 5-yard excavator bucket, I mean, are the specs like of the steel actually changing depending on what they're scooping and all that? So I mean, I'm sure, as you can tell from even my question, I'm not an expert in it, um, but things like density, material type, are you taking all that into account and then
Yes.
building these?
Yeah. So our engineering staff, they'll build the products to what this customer specifies. So, we have a standard XD series, which is our kind of our general purpose line in the excavator line. We have an XDW series, which is, it's a general purpose bucket, but with a heavy wear package. And then we have our XDR series, which is our road builder / rock series. and materials change in all three of those series of buckets, and it depends on what the customer's doing. You got a customer on the West Coast that's building road with an excavator. He's in solid granite rock all day, every day. He needs a heavy duty bucket that's not going to wear out, versus the guy that's digging, water lines and pipelines in Alberta. He can get by with an XD series bucket where, it's still a heavy duty built bucket, but, he doesn't require the wear and the wear packages that, the other guys do. So again, that comes down to, whatever the customer orders. We'll deal a lot with the salesmen who are selling the machines when there's specific needs, but for the most part, again, it's an MTO product. It's a made to order product
Yeah,
at that
sorry,
time.
sorry for the ignorance on this. So when these dealers are selling the machines, are they a lot of times coming without a bucket?
So we have stocking dealers, dealers that use our product, exclusively, or they'll use them in line with another manufacturer to have options. Most excavators in Western Canada and the Pacific Northwest, they come from the factory without an attachment. And then the dealers will align themselves with a manufacturer like us.
Oh,
And
okay.
then, they'll order their machines, and then they'll order their attachments to meet the machines.
So most of your business is a lot of it coming through that dealer network then?
Almost all of it. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a competitive market. We've had a couple other manufacturers, from back east and that on. Is it all when you've got a relationship with a dealer, is there always someone knocking at that door trying to steal them away?
All the time. Yeah.
Just continuously?
It's a very competitive industry, whether it's the equipment side or the attachment side. I think just in BC and Alberta, there's 7 or 8 manufacturers that do what we do. I think across Canada, there's probably, 15 manufacturers that are all reputable, build a good product, and we all want to grow, and there's only so much business. So
Right.
when times are good, we're all real busy, and
Right.
kind of pick our own little corner and deal with it. When times slow down and everybody's chomping at the bit
Right.
to get whatever business they can.
When you took over the business, what was it about the business that you thought was good, and then what it sort of continuing on, what is sort of giving you, again, you are growing, so what is enabling that?
I was a heavy equipment salesman, and I actually used to deal with Daequip as one of my suppliers. My preferred supplier. They had a really good product, and it worked well with the equipment. The previous owner was easy to deal with for me. I did a lot of business with him, and customers liked the stuff when we gave it to them. What the previous owner didn't have was any marketing experience or a desire to grow the company. Like when I bought the company, it had 5 employees, and they were on a bit of a downward scale. They did have at some point in time, I think up to 15 employees was the maximum that they did. But built a really good product, had a good name, but primarily dealt with end users. So,
Oh, I see.
didn't have much of a dealer following, never did any sales or marketing. I knew, because my previous experience prior to going to selling heavy equipment, I was in the attachment business, 20 years ago, working for a
Okay.
large attachment company. So I knew the industry well. Like, so when I took the risk to buy Daequip, it was calculated risk. I knew the industry, I knew the customers, and I knew the product. So my 12 and a half years of selling heavy equipment, I built a lot of very valuable relationships. I learned a lot, working for a large corporation. Like the life skills and management skills, I learned were, second to none.
And processes.
Processes,
That's the small
procedures.
business to big business. That's a big thing. It's just that procedural thing that they have to do. That can be quite frustrating when you're small.
100%. And so when I looked at the company, I always saw value there, and I always saw opportunity. And I think we might have talked about this in the first interview, but I actually tried to buy the company twice previous. That goes back to my comment. I wish I would have done it 10 years earlier.
Oh, so you did try.
Oh, I did. Yeah. I had a good relationship with the previous owner, and we tried to put a deal together in 2007, and we tried again in 2012, and just could never just come together. We were both busy, and I would say satisfied with what we were doing, and content. He only decided to sell the company when some health issues presented themselves to him, and we had always maintained friends, and he called me right away and said, hey, if you are really serious, now I need to sell, and I want to sell, and I want to sell it to you because of your passion for the industry. So I put together a business plan, and talked to the BDC, who was instrumental in helping us get established. There wasn't much at the business to buy, and my lawyer, my accountant, and BDC all said, well, you're crazy, you're paying too much, based on the numbers that the company is producing, it's only worth this, and you're paying this. And I kept telling them, there's potential, there's this, it's got
Hmm.
the brand has been built locally, now it just needs to be expanded and marketed. And I thought I was the person to do that. And so I put together a 5-year business plan. BDC backed it. They certainly charged me for it. Interest rates were way higher than the standard loan, but they seen risk, and I believed in it. So it was fun time.
What when you went to expand that marketing side of it, those dealer networks, was that day one? How long before you could sort of get the company to a place where, because again, coming from a big organization, you would have known those procedures, how to do them, but they also have to be in place from your side. How quickly were you able to have that focus?
I started right away. My background is sales and marketing, and I went back to my relationships. I left the company I was working for on very, very good terms, and the majority of the guys that I worked with at that company, they jumped on board right away to support us. Most of them didn't know the company, but they knew me, so they gave us an opportunity. And we had some hurdles in our first couple years. We grew too fast. We didn't have some of the proper engineering, so we had some issues.
Mhm.
Like all small companies do. And we grew through those issues. We dealt with them, and we moved forward. We're 40 plus people now. We've got a full time engineering group. We've got a vice
Wow.
president slash partner. Steve Daequip came on board a few years ago, and with him, he brought you know 20 years of attachment processes and procedures and contacts as well. So, um, you know, like any company, as we grow, we suffer growing pains, but we're constantly doing a CIP, which is continued improvement process. We're always looking at ways to improve our product and improve our efficiencies and hit our bottom line.
The I wanted to swing over to the sectors you're serving a little bit. Because are you doing some of like the big, like the mining buckets and that sort of thing? Or are you staying mostly in construction? What's sort of the bread and butter for you?
Our bread and butter is construction, and forestry on a lighter note. We dabble in the mining stuff. We do some good heavy duty rock buckets for
Mm.
800, 900 size excavators, and 450 size excavators. We've done a couple of big buckets. We talked about the one that we did for fitting and tech on our last interview. It was a 990 wheel loader, 13-yard rock bucket. We've had great success with that, and we've done a lot of smaller 7 to 10 yard rock buckets for customers. I'd say mining, maybe at this point in time is 10% of our business. Construction forestry is the big portion.
So when you say construction, what about like in the energy construction side? Like would you
Yeah, yeah, oil and gas would fall into that construction range. I
right,
think
okay.
pipeline and stuff, and again, it comes from our dealers. So our dealers are, it's where they're selling the machines,
Right.
um, and you know, but again, most of it is, wherever they sell the machine to.
So do you get so if you were still doing it the way the old owner was doing it, and you were selling it to a lot of the end users, you're sort of at the, for lack of a better word, the mercy of whatever sort of coming across your desk. Now with the dealers though, are you able to get a little bit more of a pulse on what's coming down the pipe? Because they're sort of seeing the ebbs and flows on a bit of a larger scale than if you were doing one-offs.
Yeah, 100%. That's we work very closely with our dealers, and they've been really good to share as much of their information as they can with us. Machine deliveries, machine timelines, what their annual budgets are, and with that now, and I go into post 2020, with the way things have changed, inflationary hits on steel prices and
Mhm.
and delivery times and labor shortages. We go back to what we started talking about is everybody's forecasting now.
Mm.
We went from, I'm gonna say, call it 2010 to 2020, where most most dealers were very comfortable, and manufacturers, with a just-in-time inventory. They were used to anywhere from 4 weeks to 12-week availability on an attachment, and a lot of times their equipment, they had it pre-ordered, and if they needed an extra excavator, an extra loader, they could call the manufacturer and have one shipped within a couple of weeks or a month. So then all of a sudden now we're post 2020, and that's just not happening anymore. So the forecasting now is, I think they started to forecast, 3 months and then 6 months. And we've got stocking dealers now that are forecasting 12 months out, which
Yeah.
is good for us. It keeps us busy. We have a big backlog with our orders, but at the same time, it's a catch 22, because if you phone up and you need something in a rush, or you got a job that you bid 6 or 7 months ago, dependent on a specific attachment,
Yeah.
you knew that you could get it in 4 to 6 weeks 2 years ago, or even 10 weeks. Now you're looking at 25 to 30 weeks, and that's pretty much across the board with all
Yeah.
manufacturers.
So talking about all this, to not bring up inflation, I don't think I'd even be remotely doing my job. So how do you deal with that? Because I'm sure, now you got to go and look, okay, is this, fuel price, if you go buy if you go buy fuel a week ago, you're paying, 30 cents more. Now you're paying X amount, but now I'm seeing on the screen over the weekend that it's supposed to drop even more. I'm sure you're dealing with all that too and buying supply. That must just be insanity.
We're a commodity driven market, obviously, with steel. We're 100% of our product is steel. Our welding wire is welding steel. Our grinding discs are, grinding steel, and we fabricate and weld steel. So I think steel over the last 3 years has probably been one of the hardest hit inflationary items. We've seen price increases right up to 350% on certain products, and we've been chasing it. It's been tough. We are fortunate enough that we have good customers, and they do their inventory orders, and we order stuff. And when we were at 8 to 10 to 12-week delivery times, it wasn't so bad. You might have a 5 or a 10% price increase over the course of 3 months or 2 months, but
Yeah.
we would secure our products from our vendors. Now, as you're going out 6, 7, 8 months, just like in the trucking industry, most of us have added a steel surcharge, and we really don't know what that steel surcharge is. So here's where the problem lies. You as a dealer, you go to try to sell a machine that you're going to deliver in 6 months' time. The customer wants to pay X amount. He signs deal on X amount. And all of a sudden, next week, there's a 15% price increase because the manufacturer just can't build it for what they quoted for. It's hard to go back to a guy that signed a deal and at X price and say, hey, we need more. 2, 3 years ago, that was unacceptable. Guys would just walk away and tell you to pound sand. It's becoming more and more of a reality. So what we try to do with our stocking dealers is forewarn them. We had a certain buffer built in, and with price increases, and I followed it through. I tried to keep my finger on the pulse as much as I could. So when customers would phone, we were trying to give a steel surcharge. We started off with a steel surcharge, and then we just changed it to a price change. It was easier for the customers to handle. It was easier for us to handle. But we were doing that on a monthly basis, at a percent here, a percent there. I would say overall from, probably March of 2019 till now, we're well over 20-25% price increases in most of our products. I think across the board, you see that with heavy equipment or cars, or, I'm trying to buy some forklifts right now, and I bought a couple new ones in 2017, and there's a 35% price difference for the same machine, 5 years later.
Yeah.
So we tried to work with our dealers and just say, hey, we got a price increase coming. We can help you out. I've talked to my suppliers. If you order now, we'll lock the price in. We'll give our PO to our suppliers for the steel. You give us a
Right.
PO. They're very appreciative of that because they've seen it from their side too.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah,
equipment's going
everybody's
up.
seeing it. It's not
Everybody's
like,
seeing it.
yeah.
So by working with them and giving them those options, they're coming back and going, you know what, that's better than just getting an email saying, hey, your price is going up. Find something about it you like. The other thing that I said we did is instead of adding a steel surcharge, because what happens is you quote a price out at, let's call it $1, and there's a 15-cent surcharge on that. Well, when you have the quote, you got a bucket, and we'll get more realistic, but you got a bucket cost that's $5,000. but now there's a $350 or $400 surcharge on that bucket that's listed as a separate surcharge. Most guys, when they get a quote, they look at the bucket, they see the price at $5,000, they put that price into their deal, and they go sell it. They miss the surcharge line or at the bottom line. So we had talked to some customers initial, and probably for about the first 4 or 5 months, we did the surcharge, and they just said, "Can you just build it in?"
Yeah.
And I like it that way too. When my suppliers come to me, I don't want to see a separate surcharge line. Just tell me what the price is. That
Yeah.
way I can deal with it.
Yeah.
If it goes down later, I'm happy. But
Yeah. But are you now then in effect then, though, there isn't, I mean, would you go, in a normal world, whatever that is, but let's say 2019, would that $5,000 bucket in December also be a $5,000 bucket in October of the same year, or was there always fluctuating, or was there some consistency for a while?
I would say, over the course of 7 years from the time I bought the business, our prices relatively stayed the same
Wow.
over 5 or 6 years. We just didn't see
But now they're
increases
changing like even monthly.
monthly.
Oh,
And
crazy.
then you take on top of that, then as inflation drives, so we're just talking about the commodity price right now, but as inflation drives, now fuel prices are higher.
Yeah.
So employees, they need more money. They can't afford to drive to work and feed their families, so the wages are going up. So it's not just one or two items of what's driving the inflation cost. It's across the board. It's the groceries, it's the fuel, it's the rent,
Interest.
it's
Interest is
interest
jumping,
rates.
yeah.
So all of a sudden now, a guy that was making $30 an hour before, he needs 35 or 36 just to break even.
Yeah.
We talked about housing prices, what they were 20 years ago to what they are today. It's I hope there's an end. Like we this inflation, it can't continue to grow.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah. Well, I say to my wife, like, I hate whining, but and I I take it on yourself to do better, but I do say the only thing that is the housing. I said I do feel like it's a little bit unfair because, like, I watched my father working. One of the hardest workers I've known, but I know being in this industry, you meet a lot of people that work very hard, long hours, make lots of sacrifice, take lots of risk like you have. And you meet these people, but the reward, if you were willing to do it before, you were going to buy a house.
Yeah.
It was going to happen.
It was your security.
It was. And now you can actually be very successful, but you have to reach a whole other level of success. You want to live in Vancouver and have a house, you better do really, really well, then some.
Yeah. We could get tangent off in a whole other direction, but the reality is the Lower Mainland is one of the most expensive housing markets in the world, and it scares me.
But great hiking.
Yeah, great hiking. but it scares me to see where we're going to be in 10 or 15 years.
Mhm.
My kids, your kids, my grandkids, as they come up, are they going to be able to afford a place down here? If you're not in the Lower Mainland market now, to move from a different market, like, you talk about job transfers and people coming here, if they want to come here to work and live and, enjoy the beautiful area that we live in, the wilderness, the oceans, the lakes, the hiking, the rivers, the fishing, everything that we got, they can't come here and have the same lifestyle that they have in, say, Calgary or Edmonton or Regina. You just can't afford it. Like, the rent alone is sometimes 2 to 3 times more than that. So,
And living further out now, you're paying.
now you're commuting and you're doing all that other
Yeah.
stuff. So, and that leads right into, the other thing that we were talking about is labor shortages.
Finding people. Yeah, that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
is that now you're trying to find people in this environment, which is really not conducive to working these jobs sometimes.
It's really hard. And, we always look for, talented employees, people with experience and a good attitude. And we're fortunate enough, like, we have just a phenomenal team at Daequip, and right from our yard labor guy up through our machinists, our welders, our fabricators, our engineers. We got some data entry people now. Just a happy crew. Everybody's really, happy to be a part of the team and excited. They come into work. They bring their kids by on weekends to show them what they're building. There's a real sense of pride there. So with that, we've been fortunate that they are also promoting working for Daequip, which has helped us. It's helped us a little bit, but the reality of trying to get skilled tradespeople in this industry, in this market, in the Lower Mainland, is very, very difficult. We've had ongoing ads for skilled machinists and skilled fabricators where we just won't get resumes. It doesn't matter if I pay $100 on Indeed or $500 on Indeed, or Craigslist or Kijiji or Facebook marketing, LinkedIn. We put all these ads up. I probably spend a couple $1,000s a month now on um, marketing for jobs,
Mhm.
and depending on the job, the skilled trades are the hardest to come by. And they're looking at it, and they can't afford to work for what they did 5 years ago. And a lot of the big corporations, if they've got global contracts, they can afford to pay a little bit more. So it actually hurts us as a smaller company that
Right.
we can't afford to pay the super high wages. But we do offer a culture. We offer very competitive wages, but on top of that, we've had on virtually unlimited overtime for the last 4 or 5 years, and some of the big
Wow.
companies just don't offer that. So there's a give and take there. We have some part-time employees that are, they work for a big corporation. They want to stay with that corporation because it's got a great pension and they've been there a long term, but they're now finding they need a second job because the company doesn't pay overtime, or won't, just doesn't offer overtime,
Mhm.
but they can't make it on what they got. So they're coming to work for us on a part-time basis, which at this point we'll take what we can get.
Yeah, there's something I actually realized a few months ago, because you get into certain conversations, like sort of these just standard things that people say, like this generation doesn't work as hard. All that. I went, we probably get DoorDash 2 or 3 times a week, and these are young people, and they're working a second job or they're going to school. I mean, these people are working, and they're long hours and second jobs and having families, and I mean, it's not easy.
I've been in this industry for 20 years, and my previous life, when I was working at the equipment dealership, I spent a lot of time at the BC Road Builders and the AED Association and the ICBA, and was involved in a lot of conferences where we talked about this exact thing. Not just skilled tradesmen, but just a labor shortage in general. And they were predicting it for a long time. Like
Hmm.
ITA was talking about trying to promote more trades because the schools have been um, what's the word I'm looking for? Not anti-trade, but they've always promoted college and university.
Hmm.
Kind of, if you went into trades, well, it's because you weren't smart enough to be at university. Well, that's so wrong. Tradespeople, I know they're smart, they're educated, they're hardworking. They want to go, but there's been that education where they're like, well, you're only going to go into trades if you can't get into university. Well, we need to switch that around, because most tradesmen I know, especially in business owners, had a trade at one point in time, and that's what gave them the opportunity to get into owning a business. And we thought that we weren't going to see a real meltdown as far
Hmm.
as labor shortages until 2025, 2027, 2028. Well, the happenings in 2020 fast forwarded that by
Right. Yeah, that's
five
true.
years, and now all of a sudden we're in this massive labor shortage, and it's not just local, it's global.
Hmm.
I've traveled around. We've got suppliers all over the place and customers all over the place, and everybody's fighting it. And it's heavy equipment, it's restaurants, it's manufacturing, it's
Restaurants, the whole
IT.
sections are closed. The whole section is closed in the restaurant because there's a lineup. They don't have people to serve the tables.
It doesn't matter where you go, there's help
Yeah.
wanted signs.
Yeah.
There's never been more opportunity for young aggressive entrepreneurs.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey,
Yeah.
I wanted to, before we get to the end of this, I want you mentioned you'd bought a building. So are you in your new building now, or is there a transition plan? What's
There's a transition plan. So we purchased a new building and property. We're very excited about that.
Yeah, no kidding.
So right now we're on about an acre and a half, maybe just shy of an acre and a half, with about 18,000 square feet of total manufacturing space. We purchased 3.5 acres of land. It's all nice and flat. It's got a 30,000 square foot manufacturing building on it. It's also got a 6,000 or 5,500 square foot separate paint booth.
Mm,
It's got 4,000 square feet of office. So it's gonna help us transition into, Daequip 2.0 when we get moved in there. We've got a long-term plan, so we're leased into our building for the next couple of years, 3 years, I think, and we take possession of our new building in 2026. As far as physical possession. We own the building now, and there's a tenant in there. And but the upside is the building is set up for manufacturing, and that's what it's been doing for the last 20 years. So it's going to give us the opportunity to grow our business so much more. We'll have more space, more capacity.
Do you still, when you're making these decisions, I mean, day one, and I don't know if you were nervous, the first year or two, and all that
I
sort of
still
stuff.
am.
So, what is it? Do you Are you still so immersed in it, or do you get a chance to step back and sort of look at, from 5 employees to 40 and growing, new manufacturing facility, all that sort of stuff? Do you sort of get to experience it and enjoy it, or what's it like?
I would be lying if I said I didn't. No, I get to enjoy it, and I've built a team. I should say we've built a team. My wife is an integral part of our business, as is my partner Steve. But we've been building this team from day one. And if there's anything I learned, in my previous life working for a big corporation, it was, to be successful, be a successful company, you have to empower the people around you. You build that team, and you give them the power to make the decisions and help you grow the business. You oversee that. I've seen companies that micromanage everything, and you get into a point where you're so focused on micromanaging everybody that you lose the culture because people won't make a decision. You lose the ability to react quickly, and you kind of lose focus on customer service, because if you got one person making all the decisions, they get bogged down, because you might have 7 or 8 or 10 or 20, depending on the size of the company, people reporting to you, and they're all asking you questions. Well, you just don't have enough time in a day or a week to answer all those questions. So one of the biggest things I learned, and a lot of my mentors that I had, and I was very fortunate to have some very fantastic mentors in the equipment side and on the attachment side of business, teaching me on the do's and the don'ts of being a successful manager. And my dad was an entrepreneur his whole life. He always had his own business, and I worked with him for 10 years. I learned lots, about the fiscal financial responsibility, and, not getting into debt. So, you combine all that together and you build yourself a good team. You can grow into a company that I'm at a point where I can step back a little bit. I'm taking a few holidays here and there. My ultimate goal is to kind of just take a step back and run it from afar, and have a great management team in place, and just continue to be a part of the big process, but let the day-to-day stuff be handled in-house.
How do you try to also get people that have, when you own a company, and you're still trying to grow, though, you need sort of people that have that growth gene too. But it's a little bit of a tricky thing, because they may not necessarily own a piece of the company, but they need to want you to grow. Do you sort of have people like that around you that sort of are looking for those new opportunities, and you're sort of filtering out? And I'm going to tie this into a second part of the question, is because in the business you're doing, the manufacturing, I'm sure you could try to manufacture 20 different things every month.
I wish we only did 20 different things.
I mean, like completely different lines,
Yeah.
like tanks, and like it just goes on and on when it
Exactly.
comes to steel. So do you sort of have a team? Are you trying to expand into other areas while sort of maintaining that core, or how do you sort of managing all that and building a team to do it?
You've probably heard me mention culture several times, and culture is really the driver of your question. You get the people, you build your team, and the team creates a culture, but the culture is created by empowering those people to make decisions. Bringing them on board, making them part of the decision, making them own their decisions, giving them the opportunity. It's no different than when you or I grew up. Some of the best lessons we learned were, stubbing your toe, or, cutting yourself because you were playing with a knife when you were a kid, or, the most painful lessons are often the best life lessons. Well, in business, it's no different. We're not going to let our people fail, but we try to give them the opportunity to provide extra value. We have team meetings every week, and we talk about what's new, what's exciting, where are we at with our production. During a production meeting, how can we make things easier? We empower the guys to come up with different solutions, try it, and with that they have the ownership. again, it comes right back down to empowering the people.
Mm.
Trust your people. If you trust your people and you give them the ability to make decisions and stand behind those decisions, they will, you know, continually do what's best for the company. They believe in it. That's their company as far as they're concerned, and pay them. It's you got to pay people.
Wallet and the soul. The do you what if there's a decision though and someone believes in the decision and you firmly believe that it's the wrong decision? How do you handle situations like that?
We come across it all the time, and we'll debate it. Let's and I've been wrong before. And I've proven other people's wrong. Again, as a good leader, you have to be able to listen to your people and trust them. And sometimes I'll look at something and I'll hear an idea, and I'm like, well, that's not going to work.
Mhm.
But if they give me 4 or 5 reasons as to why they think it's going to work, it's not going to, maybe I'm wrong.
Mhm.
I'm more than open to listen to it and hear it. And my partner Steve, he's of the same mindset. Like, we are really trying to empower the people, make sure that they're part of the process, make sure they're the ones making the decision, so that when things do succeed, they also get the pat on the back.
Mhm.
They get to see that process or that procedure flourish. um, you know eh, like I said, we've got some great people, and we've just empowered them to do what they need to do.
Mhm. I wanted to actually mention you were just quickly circle back. You said we're talking about the labor shortage. And I was curious, just for people that are listening to this, have you had any success working with organizations or anything like that to sort of that are getting
we
people in, or how have you?
We haven't. So we've talked with a couple of different labor, what are they called, labor market suppliers. We would love to get some temporary foreign workers. It's cumbersome. The government's made it very hard
Mm.
to get temporary foreign workers. The other thing is for us, it's we need skilled trades, and we need people with experience. So to jump out right away and sponsor somebody from another country without seeing what they can do or having an interview or working with them is difficult. So we have been working or trying to work with a couple of different labor market assessors, but nothing's come to fruition yet on that.
It's quite challenging. The reason I ask, we just had an interview. Exactly, the organization does that, and we were talking a lot about it from the perspective. And I come from a small world or small business world, so it's just it's try like this challenge that people are facing now. I don't really see, because even people that are coming new to the country, they're not being encouraged to go into trades.
No,
So
it's
it's
college and university is the big push, and I've never understood it. And now even this new generation, they're more into, they don't want to work hard, and by working hard I mean physical. They want to make them easy money. There's so many different ways now. This Instagram and TikTok sensation has really taken a lot of people in that, they call it 25 and under, out of the working world until they realize that they can't make a living with it. Some do, but it's like anything.
but the people that do, I mean, they are extremely, I mean, we're I always bug my wife. I say, how does it feel to be married to a YouTuber? And because, but I mean, when you see our facility, I mean, we're all in on it. We're not doing this as a side job. And
You've got bricks and mortar, you've got employees, you've got partners,
yeah,
you've got people
what
working.
it takes to actually do it. I don't, so it's not a side thing.
But the flip side is you can look at some of these influencers that have 300, 400, 500,000, a million followers, and they're making millions of dollars a year with their phone. And so everybody wants a part of that. It's just like we're trying to win the lottery. Everybody
Right.
wants to
Everybody
win the
wants a
lottery,
part
right?
of it.
I guess you can take, in my own opinion, or my thought process with a successful Instagram or a successful TikToker or a successful YouTuber that's doing it on their own, to get the likes, to get the audience, it takes a long time, and some people don't realize that. And it's probably like being a professional athlete, or specifically a hockey player. I grew up in the hockey world, and everybody thought that their kid was going to be the next Wayne Gretzky. The
Yeah.
reality is, you take 30 NHL teams with 20 players in a team, there's 600 people, that are, professional NHLers, maybe another 100 on the backside, but there's 7 to 10 million kids in North America trying to get, one of those draft picks every year. And I relate that to the same as the Instagram sensation that some people are going to make money. I personally know a young gal who grew up with her parents and her brothers playing hockey, and she's doing very, very well. But she's one in a million, or whatever the number might be. So um, as immigration people come in, again, I go back to the government. The biggest challenge I see that they do is that they don't recognize, whether it be a doctor or an engineer or a tradesperson, when they come across and come into Canada and want to be part of this great country, their skills aren't recognized here, and they end up, I just saw a commercial the other day where you got doctors and lawyers that are driving cabs to try to make ends meet because they can't go to work here, and yet we have a massive shortage of everything. Uh,
and where they're landing too. A lot of people are landing here in these. That's what we just talked about on another episode. They're landing in these major expensive hubs. So they're forced to basically pay the bills right away, as opposed to. I was my sister lives up in Williams Lake. Well, they had people from Syria that came to that community. Well, that's a small community, so the whole town could embrace them.
I use Uber and whatever else, and I'm a very talkative person. I'm a socialite, right? So when I get into an Uber, I talk to people, and depending on what nationality they are, or what part of the country they're from, I like to just ask questions. Usually, it's a ride to the airport, or it's an hour ride, so just chat with them. And I've come across like Uber drivers, and they doctors, a renowned doctor in India, and they come here and they're not allowed to practice. Nurses, engineers. I've met several engineers that are driving Uber to make ends meet because they can't practice here. So to me, it's one of these things where our government has to wrap their head around, what's it going to take to bring the people that want to come to our country and let them be a part of the professional group that they belong to. And, instead of making it so challenging for them, like there should be maybe a test that they can take, or they can start off, in a lesser role, but doing what they're doing, and either shadow somebody, my wife to be part of the medical program, the BC medical program, and some of the doctors, they go to these other countries, Doctors Without Borders, and try to help train and stuff. And there's got to be a way that we can bring these professional people, i.e., tradespeople and professional people, and get them working right away without all the red tape.
And trades in university, in schools. I mean, I remember I went to SKS in Kamloops, and there was a handful of people that went to shop class and that, but it wasn't there was no going out and getting work experience, like going to a facility like yours. I mean, you take 50 kids from a school, Kamloops, so people are sort of familiar with that. You take them to your facility. I mean, there'll be people that'll get involved in that industry just from seeing it and being around it. So it's an exposure issue as well.
There's been a bit of a push over the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years, but it's not big enough. There's not enough support behind it, from the school board specifically. And there's groups out there that are really, really trying to promote it and push it. And I hope it gets more traction, because the reality is it's tradespeople and workers that really keep our economy going. Not everybody can be a YouTuber, not everybody can be an Instagrammer, and not everybody can be a doctor or a lawyer. So we have to change the mindset in the schools to go, you can make a really good living, you can make a great career out of being a tradesperson, and be very successful doing it. And they've been doing it for the last 50 years, but somewhere down the road, it got to where, well, if you're a tradesperson, you're not as good as somebody going to college becoming, a nurse or a doctor.
As these tradespeople are making like 150K plus a year.
Well, that's the reality. There are tradespeople. Well, the majority of tradespeople now are making more than nurses or doctors.
I know lots of people that are making great money. And it's great to have you on the show, and thanks for doing this in person. It's just different, when you're sitting there looking at a monitor, and it's just not the same experience. So thanks for coming in, taking the time, walking through this episode. It was really good to have you on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, and I'm glad to do it in person. And looking forward to it.
Next show, maybe it'll be on TikTok. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll obviously have lots of links and everything to Daequip. And again, thank you for all the support of the show. Hope you entered that contest. We'd love to send someone a prize. So we will see you on the next episode of The Crownsman Show.